Today, we're diving into one of the most cataclysmic events in world history, the 1258 Mongol siege of Baghdad. It's an incredible story of immense power, a fatal miscalculation, and the near total destruction of a legendary city. This is the story of how a golden age was brought to its knees.
Just look at this. This manuscript painting captures the exact moment the unstoppable Mongol war machine arrived at the walls of Baghdad. Now, you have to understand, for 500 years, this city had been the heart of the Abbasid Caliphate, a true beacon of civilization. But in 1258, its time was up.
And here's the part that is just staggering: the speed of its collapse. All it took was 13 days. Just 13 days for one of the world's most magnificent cities to be completely and utterly broken.
So, to really get a sense of the sheer scale of this loss, we first need to understand what Baghdad was. I mean, this wasn't just another city. It was truly the jewel of the medieval world.
This quote from historian Justin Morosi, it just nails it. Baghdad was the absolute epicenter of the Islamic Golden Age. It was home to the legendary House of Wisdom, incredible astronomical observatories, and the greatest thinkers of the era. It was, in every single sense, the intellectual capital of the planet.
And you could see the city's prestige in structures just like this, the Talisman Gate. This was one of the final great architectural works of the Abbasid dynasty. For centuries, it stood as this powerful symbol of the Caliphate's strength and permanence, a permanence that was about to be shattered.
Because from the east, a storm was gathering. The Mongol Empire, under the leadership of Genghis Khan's own grandson, Hulegu, was marching west with one singular, terrifying purpose: total conquest.
And make no mistake, this wasn't some spontaneous raid. This was a methodical, multi-year campaign. Hulegu set out from the Mongol capital way back in 1253. For 3 years, his army moved slowly but relentlessly west, crushing territories like the infamous assassin strongholds in Persia. The storm was getting closer and closer to Baghdad.
And the force he commanded was just immense. We're talking at least 138,000 men. To put that in perspective, that was fully 1/5 of the entire Mongol Empire's manpower, not even counting all the auxiliaries they brought from places like Armenia, Georgia, and China. An overwhelming force was bearing down on the Caliphate. And right here, this is the moment the Caliph, al-Musta'sim, gave Hulegu the perfect excuse to attack. Hulegu had demanded Abbasid troops to help him finish off the assassins. The Caliph refused. He probably thought it was a trick to weaken his city's defenses. It turned out to be a catastrophic miscalculation.
That refusal led directly to a disastrous diplomatic showdown, a series of letters that would ultimately seal Baghdad's fate.
I mean, just listen to the chilling finality in Hulegu's words. He was not negotiating, he was delivering an ultimatum. He made it crystal clear what would happen if the Caliph didn't submit. The disconnect between the two sides was, well, staggering. On one hand, Hulegu demanded total, unconditional submission. In response, Caliph al-Musta'sim was, frankly, delusional. He replied with what one historian calls antagonistic bombast, calling Hulegu a young and ignorant upstart, and even let mobs in Baghdad mock the Mongol envoys. He completely failed to grasp the mortal danger he was in.
So diplomacy had failed spectacularly. The only thing left was the assault. The storm had arrived. And the odds, they were just impossible. The Mongols brought over 138,000 highly trained, battle-hardened soldiers to face an Abbasid garrison of maybe 50,000, and many of them were not well trained. Baghdad was hopelessly, completely outmatched from the very beginning.
On January 29, 1258, the assault began, and it was total war. Mongol forces completely surrounded the city, their advanced siege engines ready to pound those ancient walls into nothing but dust. The Mongol strategy was brutally efficient. First, they completely cut the city off, building a palisade and a moat to trap everyone inside. Then, their siege engines got to work, just relentlessly pounding the eastern wall until it was breached. Within days, the defense completely collapsed. By February 10th, it was all over. The Caliph surrendered.
What followed was a week of unimaginable slaughter. Hulegu Khan's own conservative estimate puts the death toll at 200,000 people. Later, Muslim sources claimed the number was closer to 2 million. The city and its people were systematically wiped out.
Okay, so the physical destruction was undeniable. But the siege's historical legacy is way more complex. You always hear it called the event that ended the Islamic Golden Age. But is that really true?
And that's the central question historians still grapple with today. Did the fall of one city, no matter how great it was, truly extinguish an entire era of intellectual and cultural progress? You know, the tragic end is captured in this one final, chilling encounter between the conqueror and the conquered. Hulegu holds a banquet in the captured palace, and in a moment of pure mockery, he offers the Caliph platters of his own gold and jewels. And he simply tells him, "Eat."
Hulegu asked him why he hadn't used all this treasure to fund his army, to defend his city. The Caliph's only answer was, "Such was God's will." Hulegu's reply sealed his fate. "What will befall you is also God's will." Shortly after that, the Caliph was executed, rolled in a carpet, and trampled to death by horses. A Mongol custom, you see, to avoid spilling royal blood on the earth.
So what about that big question? Did this one event actually end the Golden Age? Well, the popular myth, the one you always hear, that the Tigris River ran black with ink from all the destroyed libraries, it's a powerful image for sure. But historians now argue the decline was a much, much longer process. In fact, many of Baghdad's great libraries actually reopened within just 2 years. The city's decline was really sealed by later siegers, not just this one.
And this leaves us with a final thought. The fall of Baghdad wasn't the end of a civilization, but it was the end of an empire, brought on by arrogance and a fatal underestimation of a rival. So if it's not simply a story about cultural destruction, what is it? Perhaps it's a timeless warning about the profound cost of hubris and what happens when leaders fail to recognize history's great turning points until it's far, far too late.